So this is Bill Palm again, also once again on March 15th, 2002. It's evening now, and I'm going to do a few more little demonstrations for you. I'm going to mix up some cobalt blue and alizarin crimson right here. I'm going to have one brush with paint and the second brush with water. This one with water, this one with paint. First the one with paint. So we're going to go back to our bushes from clip number 2. This is clip number 3 and many demonstrations on watercolor technique. We're going to assume that the sun is coming from the upper left, coming down, where that arrow is right there. So we're going to paint some shadow color into the bottom of that bush, with most of it over at the right, as it would be if the sunlight was coming from that direction. Second brush with water, I'm just going to soften up the part of it there like that. Coming over here. There. I rinse my brush out so I don't go in there with used paint. Soften that one up too. Coming down to here. Water again. Took most of the water out, either with a rag or a sponge, a damp sponge. I like that. Can come up here, do a little bit in this area. Okay, this is putting the shadows in to make our bush little composition here a little more realistic. Realistic in that there are shadows now. There we go. Okay, let's let that dry. We'll zoom back for a little look to see how those shadows look like they're sitting on the dirt or the sand in the desert. Now let's come over here. We're going to wet the sky. We do a little sky shot here. This one's going to be wet and wet technique. That means I wet the paper ahead of time. While that's sinking in a bit, I'll go over here and mix up some sky color. I use ultramarine blue, a little phthalo blue. That's phthalo blue always melts faster than anything else. Put a little alizarin crimson in it to dull it down a little bit so it isn't real super pretty sky color. Make sure we got rich pigment. There, that's good. Okay, back to our sky. See that rectangle I trust on the upper right. I'm going to drop in some color. I'm going to zoom around to the other side so I can paint a little better around this camera. So you can see that wet paper gives you a nice effect with your cloud. There. Okay, I'm going to use the same color now. This time I'm going to switch back from using the second brush with water to using a sponge with just a little bit of water in it. Make sure we got plenty of color. It looks about like that. Just some water and some phthalo blue and ultramarine blue and a little bit of alizarin crimson. Come over here to this part right here, the lower rectangle. I'm going to come in here put some color down. Then, here's my sponge that I rinsed in the water and squeezed out to get almost all the water out of it. Softening the tops of those clouds. I rinse my sponge out one more time. Squeeze out the water. So I have just a little bit in there. And do the tops of those clouds. Going to come over and put another one in here. Also, I can come down here and do part of the bottom of the cloud if I want to soften a little bit. Now I want to do one more here, if we have time, in the right rectangle. This time, I'm going to clean my palette with my sponge, another good use of a sponge. And I want to put some Payne's Gray for a storm cloud approach. Plenty of rich, dark Payne's Gray because it always dries quite a bit lighter. I'm going to come in and back to my rectangle. Once again, I'm going to wet the sky with almost clean water. It'll work, don't worry. There we go. Now I want to put some light blue in the sky. Notice how you can vary the width of your stroke by twisting this flat brush. Okay, now ideally I would let this set for 2 or 3 minutes. Well, we do have a little time here. I'll just thicken up this mixture just a little more. Sometimes when you have a wet area and you don't want your paint to spread too much, you can take some of the paint out of the bottom of the bristles here that is near the ferrule, the metal part. That makes it a little drier, means it'll stay in place. Didn't like that stroke. I'll remove it. Came in with a little darker color, kind of spiff up that sky. This is a two-tone sky, wet on wet, with some blue in there first and then coming on top of the blue, not covering all of it, with the dark Payne's Gray. Okay, now looking at our sky sketches.